Good morning, my friends. So I'm very happy to be with you here this morning, and I'm starting a new series. So I think we have spoken at length about existential anxiety, human suffering, the fear of death suddenly becoming part of the zeitgeist because of the challenges posed by COVID-19 and the fact that many people suddenly are realizing that they took their existence for granted. And that if you do that, then of course, whenever it is threatened, then there is anxiety. So whenever existence is threatened or there's the perception of threat, then there is anxiety. And we are seeing that. As I said, these existential conundrums and dilemmas have to be addressed sometime if we want to live the examined life. And when they are not addressed, then when our existence or life is threatened, then of course we experience extreme anxiety. Some people experience intense suffering, and of course there is always looming in the background the fear of death. So today I want to actually start a new series, and it's with your permission, of course. The series is How I Am opens the door to the mystery of death. I am opens the door to the mystery of death. I'm just turning the phone off. Okay, so I am opens the door to the mystery of death. And by opening the door to the mystery of death, it opens the door to the mystery of birth. And it opens the door to what we call the mystery of life. Birth, death, life. They're all the fundamental mystery. They're all the fundamental mystery. Now, of course, some of you, and in fact, I have friends who say, why are you addressing such a morbid topic? Well, isn't the COVID-19 pandemic a morbid experience that can lead to other morbid experiences? And should we be in denial, or should we actually open the door of awareness to the mystery of our own existence, which is so intimately tied with the mystery of death, birth, and what we call life? So that is why I'd like to actually go into this with your permission. Now, if some of you find this disconcerting, morbid, etc., press the delete button. You don't have to hang around with people who increase your anxiety. So, that's not my intention here. If you want to hang around with me, and it's your choice, or with others, always who we hang out with is a choice. But my intention is not to increase anxiety, but to actually never be in denial, because denial always increases anxiety. Denial of something that we don't want to face. So let's talk about this. Also, by the way, I do have a book called Life After Death, and I'll address some of the topics in that as well as we go along. But today, let's start part one of the series, and that is How I Am opens the door to the mystery of death, the mystery of life, and the mystery of birth. So let me start off by saying something very straightforward and simple. Life and death are not opposites. Birth and death are opposites. Once again, life and death are not opposites. Birth and death are opposites. As soon as you're born, there's the possibility of death. And as death happens, then there's the possibility of birth. And what is life? It is the continuum of birth and death in a timeless now. That's fundamental principle here. But, you might say, oh, who says? What's the proof? Why bother? All those are very relevant objections. So, who says? Wisdom traditions have given us a lot of insights into the experiential knowledge of existence. I focus mainly on Eastern wisdom traditions, Kashmir Shaivism, Vedanta, Buddhist traditions, Zen, but I've also looked deeply into the Gnostic Gospels, some aspects of the Old Testament, and of course the New Testament, which is a remarkable story of divine consciousness. So I look at all those, but I have my own practice. And so what I say here is not only what we've gleaned from wisdom traditions, but actually the experiential knowledge that comes from what we call sadhana, which is deep exploration into the nature of self, into the nature of I am. So even as we address the mystery of existence, here is something to think about right away. Who or what is interested in solving the mystery of existence? So even before we talk about the mystery, there has to be some entity that asks the question. Who is it? What is it that wants to look at the mystery of existence? Short answer, I am. Long answer, what or who is I am? Because I am is not the ego-bound personality squeezed into the volume of a body and the span of a lifetime. That's the fundamental mistake. I am is not a person. I am is a non-local awareness in which the person is a particular process in space and time. And we've talked about this for a long time. So let's not even go in detail over there. I am that I am. I'm that. You are that. All this is that. That alone is. Before Abraham was, I am. From Jesus, from the Old Testament, I am that I am. I am the Alpha and the Omega. So I am actually already is the mystery. It doesn't even need to ask the question. I am Deepak Chopra is what asks the question. Because I am Deepak Chopra lives in the world of ignorance, and I am is the light of awareness that is trying to bring some awareness to the process. I am Deepak Chopra. Okay, I am is the mystery and the trickster and the divine fundamental reality, non-local, eternal, timeless, that is manifesting as experiences through all kinds of biological organisms, including the biological organism that we refer to as Deepak Chopra or whatever, a process of sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, perceptions, starting with a fertilized ovum and ending in death with everything in between. A process, a verb, not a noun. Okay. So I am is the mystery and the trickster and the divine being that is experiencing itself as a process. At this moment, that process is innumerable processes, amongst which Deepak Chopra is as a personality as a person is one amongst infinite processes. So I am is the light of awareness that knows the answer to the mystery. But I am Deepak Chopra is the one that is asking the question. So before we even address what is death, what is life, what is birth, the most fundamental question now is what or who wants to know. So in this case, Deepak Chopra wants to know, you want to know, but I am already knows. Okay. So if that's clear, let's start with very fundamental principles. I'm going to do a series on the mystery of death with those of you who are interested. And today is part one, but this may go on for a long time. Okay, part two, part three, etc. As we unravel this mystery together. Okay, and if you find any things that I say that are objectionable or confusing or are contradictory or paradoxical or silly or pseudoscience or bullshit or whatever, please say so, object, and I'll listen to your feedback and try to respond. Or I may not, but I'm interested in what your feedback is. And also, as I mentioned before, if you're not interested in the topic, just press the delete button and enjoy your day. Okay, so part one, starting today. Sorry for the long introduction. So today I want to address two topics when we address this mystery of death. The first topic is what is real, and the second topic is the multidimensional nature of existence. Now we could spend a long time just on these two, but we should actually go a little deep today on just these two. And you'll see how these two relate to everything else that follows in this series on the mystery of death. So the first topic, what is real? Here are the bullet points. Only the eternal is real. That which is time-bound as experience is evanescent, transient, impermanent, ephemeral, ever, as I said, ungraspable. Every experience, this experience you're having right now of this conversation is ungraspable because every time I speak, by the time you've heard me, what I've said is already gone. It's now a memory. Even by the time you look at me, the experience you're having of perceiving me is over. So everything that we experience is the past. And one thing we can say about the past, it's not here now. Okay? And therefore, it's not real. The past is not real here and now. It's a memory, and even the memory is now. So anything that's transient, ephemeral, evanescent, ungraspable is not real. And every perception, every thought, every feeling, every intention, every image, every perceptual activity is like that. It's born, dies as soon as it's born. The continuity comes from the presence of being, which we've said. But we can see right now that birth and death are happening simultaneously and faster than the speed of light in an eternal, timeless now. So that which is happening and disappearing eternally is an activity of the eternal. And the eternal is not in time, only the activity is in time. So that's principle number one. Only the eternal, timeless, infinite is real. So that leads to bullet point number 2. That which is transient and permanent is unreal. It's a real experience, but at the most fundamental level, it's not real. Okay? Simple. Therefore, birth and death are activities transient, whether they are a microsecond or a whole lifetime in cosmic time doesn't matter. They're still, ephemeral, transient, impermanent. On a cosmic level, everything is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a microsecond. So that which is transient and impermanent is unreal, even though it feels like a real experience. Consciousness, I am, prior to experience, as the immeasurable potential of all that was, is, and will be, is real. Consciousness makes the questions possible. Consciousness makes the mystery obvious. Consciousness asks the questions, and consciousness has the answers. So, where is this consciousness? Why can't I see it? Why can't I touch it, taste it, smell it, perceive it, think about it, imagine it? And the reason, of course, is it's formless. So you can't see it. And being formless, it has no boundaries. So having no boundaries, it's infinite. And the infinite is non-conceptualizable, unimaginable, inconceivable, but without it, no concepts, no imagination, no beliefs, no ideas, no perceptions, nothing. So consciousness is real. It is non-local, doesn't exist in space-time. It is prior to the theater of space-time and causality, or let's say the experience of space-time and causality. And when we understand that, then we also understand that mind and body, being experiences of locality in time, are also transient. Mind and body are transient. Mind and body are transient processes in the same way as any experience, perceptions, thoughts, feelings, images, anything that we can call experience. So that would be bullet point number 4, mind and body being local are transient. And bullet point 5, as a principle, is consciousness survives the death of the molecules on which it rides. You can look at it very simply. Your stomach cells die every 5 days, but consciousness in the stomach cells survives the death of the stomach cells as the knowledge and the know-how and the ability and the activity to make enzymes and digest food and all of that. Now, that's not only true of your stomach cells, but your skin cells die once a month, and they still have the consciousness which has the memory of hot and cold, solid, liquid, pleasure, pain, etc. So consciousness is constantly outliving the molecules, the death of the molecules on which it rides. The molecules are born, they die, but consciousness and its knowledge, its memories, its learnings, its evolution, its understanding survives the death of the molecules. It rides. In fact, every molecule in your body that you have right now didn't exist 1 year ago, and yet you do. Okay, your body is constantly recycling the molecules on which consciousness is riding. So just like the rider on the horse is not the horse, you are the rider of the molecules of your body. You're not the molecules of your body. Actually, the molecules of your body are transient manifestations of I am as a perceptual activity. So consciousness survives the death of the molecules on which it rides. Isn't it fantastic? It's overriding the death of the molecules right now on which it rides. And what is consciousness? I am. Okay, So this leads to today's second point, which is equally important as we open the door to the mystery of death, which is to the mystery of life and birth. And the second point today is that existence is multidimensional in nature. Okay, that existence at all times is multidimensional. It can be experienced as or interpreted as physical. So perceptual activity, everything you can see, touch, taste, smell right now, is interpreted as physical. So existence can be experienced as physical, but it can also be experienced as subtle. Subtle is mind, intellect, and ego, which is transient thoughts, feelings, emotions, mind, intellect, ego. So that's the subtle domain. But it can also be experienced, existence, as causal. Causal as most fundamental, prior to experience, as in deep sleep or in transcendence, or actually in what we will be calling physical death. Physical death is going to the most fundamental levels of existence, not physical, not subtle, but causal. And as we know in the wisdom traditions, these subtle levels are called Jiva, Atma, Brahman. Jiva is a conditioned soul with karma, memory, desire, sanskaras, vasanas, imagination. And then Atman is the unconditioned soul, which is connected directly to the unconditioned infinite consciousness, which is differentiating into all other species of consciousness. So once again, existence can be experienced as physical, subtle, and causal domains simultaneously. The dimension that most people call the afterlife is not another time or place. Once again, the dimension that most people call the afterlife is not a time or place. So heaven, hell, purgatories, lokas, these are not dimensions of space and time. The closest thing we can describe it as is a new dimension in consciousness. The closest thing we can describe the so-called afterlife is a new dimension in consciousness. Like this is a dimension in consciousness. Okay, this is the lucid dream in the vivid now, and that we are interpreting as reality. So what people refer to as life after death is not a location in space or time, because this right now that we're experiencing is also not a location in space and time. That's the perceptual trick, the perceptual artifact. We are experiencing space and time, but we are processing that experience in a timeless now. So when we understand this, then we also understand that reality is different in each dimension. Just like reality is different in sleeping, waking, dreaming, so too, reality is different in these different dimensions of experience that the eternal I am is constantly modifying itself as experience. So that would lead to the next bullet point. Subtle reality is a familiar dimension that expands in dreams, in sleep, but also when the activity that we call the body ceases. Because the body, when we drop the body, it's not that we are dropping the body. It wasn't a body in the first place. It was a changing perceptual activity interpreted as the body. But anyway, when the body is dropped, what really happens is, contrary to popular thinking, as expressed in religion, but not contrary to the spiritual experience of the founders of all these amazing traditions and religions, contrary to that, the soul doesn't leave the body leaves the soul. And the body is an activity that just stops. And so when it stops, the dimensions we call subtle and causal, which gave rise to the activity that we call physical, are still there as potential, resting, or as subtle experiences. So subtle reality is a familiar dimension that expands when we, quote unquote, drop the body. But the reality is that even when we are in a physical body, we are multidimensional. We can experience all these different dimensions in the subtle body, and by going to the causal body, we can basically go across the leaky margins, the membranes that separate one dimension from another, which are conceptual, intellectual anyway. So even when we are in a physical body, we remain multidimensional. What you're doing today in all dimensions determines the quality and experience of life right now, and also after what we call physical death. What you're doing right now in all these dimensions, physical, subtle, and causal, determines the quality and experience of life right now, and also in that dimension that we call death. So that's a lot to cover in about 25 minutes, and I don't want to overwhelm us with information and start thinking about this too much. Just remember that I am is the doorway to the mystery of all existence, to the mystery of all existence. And I am is also the window to that mystery. Let's choose a mantra for today. A mantra that will be a reminder that I am is the mystery of the total universe. And I think it's quite obvious what that mantra could be. Aham Brahmasmi. I am the universe. I know we've used it many times, but it's very good. Aham Brahmasmi. Or just Aham, I am. The vibration of all existence. So I will continue with this series on the mystery of death. Please let me know if I should continue. Okay? Please let me know if I should continue. And Supra D says, stop spreading lies, only Jesus saves. Yes, Jesus as I am is non-local being, but not Jesus as a person. Jesus as a person is the same as Abraham. Before Abraham was, I am. Okay, so this is it. Thank you very much, and tomorrow we will continue.